about them Cowboys. It's the Cowboys Squad. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
Well, week one is done, and we are now getting ready for the Cowboys home opener against the Giants in week number 2. We've got rumors, we've got unfortunate injury news, and a whole lot more. Welcome to the Cowboys Squad Show. That is the co-host, one of the two co-hosts, Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. They crush it every single day, which you already know if you're watching us now. And that is the coach, former Cowboys coach, the one and only Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, we got a lot to get to. We've got rumors. We've got the week 2 preview. What's going on with Jaden Blue? The Blues? What happened? And the Cowboys are actually favorites for their home opener. Not a surprise, but we'll get into that. But I want to start with the breaking news that literally came across about 10 minutes ago, guys. Not sure what, I don't think anybody knows much more, but apparently Deron Bland injured his foot at practice, according to multiple reports.
I've got an update a little bit. So apparently this is an injury that happened during Monday's, what they're calling a bonus practice. Nick Harris of the Cross Chop podcast actually first reported that. Now, we're not quite sure whether it's a foot or ankle injury. We've heard a couple different reports, but the Cowboys are expecting him to be out in week 2. They think this could be a multi-week injury. It's not been determined whether he's going to be like an IR candidate or not. They're hoping that's not the case, but they're going to know more in the next couple of days when they can do an MRI and get some more data. But one of the things I wanted to mention, this is not the same foot where he injured last year and had to have surgery on. It's the other foot. So at least that's, I think, relative good news that the Cowboys aren't dealing with the same foot, but it's a big blow to their defense.
Yeah, I think that there's probably a couple ways to look at this right now, right? Like, is the short term and the long term and then the long term, right? Like, I think if we're talking about a foot injury that keeps him out 2 weeks, that's something that happens in the course of the NFL season. That's fine. If we were talking about a re-injury of the previous injury he had, because it was a Liz Frank, wasn't it, before, Marcus? Is that right? The other foot was a Liz Frank, I think.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so that would be obviously pretty devastating because usually when they get re-injured, those Liz Frank injuries, it's really, really bad the second time. Or potentially a new Liz Frank injury, which, again, like I think would obviously be just as bad on the other foot. And if we were talking about re-injuring that first one, then you'd be worried about the fact that you just signed a long-term contract with Deron Bland, and that could be a potentially debilitating injury, especially for a position like cornerback, where obviously they're using their feet a lot. So I think we're obviously in wait and see mode right now to see exactly the severity of it. Hopefully, it's just a situation where he's missing a couple games and he's back. But obviously there's a concern for more long-term stuff.
Yeah. Anytime it's a foot issue, to me, I wince from all that because I think there's so many different things that can happen. And whether it's a Jones, Liz Frank, I mean, there's a lot of different things that come with that particular scenario, and then having to put a boot on, and then that affects when you're wearing a boot. That affects the Achilles. I mean, there's a lot of things. I don't want to get into the negative side of it because hopefully, like you said, it's good that it's not the same one. But anytime you're backpedaling and you're sticking your foot in the ground and you're driving all the time, I mean, the stress that your feet are under is really unbelievable for a defensive back. So hopefully, hopefully it's not as bad, and we'll have to wait and see how it comes out.
A couple other little things here. So, yes, we're waiting on the severity here, but it's really unfortunate that the Cowboys really struggle to get Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland on the field together at the same time.
It's crazy.
It's been back and forth. Like, Bland missed most of last year, and then once he came back, Diggs got injured, and that was the case in 2023. It continues to be this yo-yo. Now, I will say one of the things that's interesting is now that you have Diggs back, and you have Kyrie Elam on the outside.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to find the guy that can play in the slot. And this is a problem that they were trying to solve in the offseason during training camp. You have Zion Childress in your practice squad. And I actually saw today, Landon, that Keemon Hall, who was competing for that spot, he's actually serving a 3-game suspension.
That's right.
For I don't know what. So he's not even an option. He wasn't on the Cowboys practice squad. Right. So I've got to assume that it's going to be Zion Childress, or maybe we see more of like Wanye Thomas come down and play in the slot. But just based on what we saw last week, like they're probably just going to play more base defense than anything.
Well, a lot of zone. I mean, that's the one thing that they played. So much zone. In fact, I don't even know they played a snap of man coverage in a passing snap last week. So I imagine that they'll probably rotate a couple different guys and play a lot of zone. Real quick, Coach, before you go, I just wanted to correct myself. It was not a Liz Frank injury. I just looked it up with Bland. It was just a normal stress fracture. So we've avoided, obviously, a big bullet. So hopefully there's no Liz Frank in this or in the future either. So just wanted
no, I mean, there's a difference in the two, and then I never have really understood the side of a Jones fracture or a stress fracture in your foot, and then how do those things heal?
Well, I think a Jones fracture
it's a location, right? Isn't it a location?
It's of the smallest toe. It's like it's a fracture of that smallest toe, and because there's not a lot of blood flow there, it's a really hard injury to heal.
Right, but again, if you look at that, a Jones fracture damn near can go all the way to your ankle. You say it's the small toe because it's the outside of your foot, but I mean, I'm a doctor, but I'm only a doctor when it comes to playing dominoes. So I'll get after you from that side of things. But I hope that it's not. You hope it doesn't work into that where it's the outside of your foot, because that's the one that they have to usually go in and put the screw in, and then it's a cast followed by a boot. Again, I don't want to get into the negative side of it. Hopefully it's just something that they can fix with a boot in a few weeks.
Hopefully it's just a rolled ankle and something that he needs to be in a boot and just let the swelling go down, and we'll see in 2 weeks where he's at. Like, that's what we're hoping. Let's even stop talking about Jones fracture and Liz Frank. It's all bad words that we're talking about right now.
The truth of the matter is, and this is what I was talking to Marcus about off air, is that, with a boot, it could be such a wide variety of things, right? It could be preventative. It could be, so it's like, let's all, before we get freaked out about it, let's get a little bit more information, because you're right. Coach, it's like, you start going down the rabbit hole of all the negative things that it could be that with the foot injury, and it's not pretty, right? It's really ugly what could happen.
Well, and that's what's the first thing you think of? Well, it's the foot. Well, that's the farthest place from your heart. Look how long it takes to heal. How you get blood down there. Yeah, we could get off the rails here in a hurry.
Okay. Well, did I mention that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel? And FanDuel football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. All right. So, guys, we're all together for the first time since opening night and the loss against the Eagles. So having a little less than a week to think about it, what were your final takeaways before we move on and look ahead to week 2?
It's been a week. It feels like it's been about 10 years since the Cowboys have last played.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, I think the more time passes between that game and week 2, the more you feel like that game really slipped away. Like, you watch the tape and, man, the Cowboys had plenty of opportunities to win this game. And I think we can be encouraged by how some units played, how the offense got out to a great start, by the coaching job by Brian Schottenheimer and Matt Eberflus. But this was a very winnable game, and it's going to be hard to win games this year, especially against NFC opponents like that. It feels like they let one slip through their fingers. Now you've got to come back in week 2 and get ready for another divisional game against a team that's just as desperate as you are to get a win. I know our friends at FanDuel think the Cowboys are going to win this game. It's going to be tougher than they think.
Yeah, I think just having been a week away from it, it feels like the Cowboys kind of squandered an opportunity of really good football being played by Dak Prescott specifically. He had a really good game. And I think the thing that you're encouraged by is the answers that you got from all the things that you had unknowns about, right? And again, it's early in the season. None of these answers are permanent. All of this is a moving target. So nothing is resolved or solved here. But I think the early returns on what you've seen from Brian Schottenheimer and his ability to get his team up for a football game, I think those have been positive, right? I think the early returns you've seen in this Cowboys run game and their ability to have success in key moments. I think they ended up with the best run game by success rate in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. It was even though it wasn't explosive numbers, you had 2 touchdowns. They were converting third downs. They were converting goal line situations. That's what you're asking for in a run game. Let's see a little bit more of that. And I think the way you lost the game was in ways that you don't feel like you don't hope are going to be kind of ongoing issues throughout the season. CeeDee Lamb making a bunch of drops, obviously some issues at tight end with that as well. The hope is that you can clean a couple things up and play much better football next week. But obviously, there's still lingering issues with the defense and how quickly they're going to be able to grow and adjust. And I think, they're going to have a little bit easier test this week, but it's going to be a little bit tougher test for groups like the offensive line that you felt like did well, but you still need to see them kind of take a step against what's going to be a really tough test, especially on the interior against the Giants.
You were going to have to score 28-31. Let me help you out. You're going to have to score 28-31. and we're going to come on here in a week from now and you're going to have to score 28-31. I mean, that you got some critical stops from your defense in the second half.
Yeah.
You didn't score 28. And you point and you go, okay, well, why didn't we score 28? Ran the football pretty well. We got really good play out of the tight ends. We had a quarterback who hadn't played in over 300 days, who went out and functioned, I thought, exceptionally well. Yeah. And your $30 million receiver dropped 3 balls. And they were critical balls. And so the margin for winning and losing in the NFL is razor thin. And it's razor thin, and it's magnified when you have a defense that's probably not going to get you a lot of turnovers, and you're going to have to score. And I think it's something that, to me, the one thing I don't want to see is a team come out flat against the Giants. You ought to be geeked up week 1 against the Super Bowl champions. You should have had some shit in your neck going into that game. That's what you should have had. And that's what they had. And they had an opportunity to win the football game. What I don't want to see is a Giants team come in here and you've been watching them on film and you don't think they're very good, or you don't think Russell Wilson can beat you, or whatever the scenario is. And then you go out and almost play down to that level. It's like, it's like when you play golf. If you play golf with guys that are pretty good golfers, you find yourself playing pretty good. You play with guys that hack it around, all of a sudden you start hacking it around. So that's what I don't want to see out of this football team.
That's my excuse.
I thought that was directed at me because every time Coach calls me, I'm on the golf course. So
I've gotten to where now I just answer the phone. Let's welcome for his 6:15 tea time, playing out of the trunk of his car from Erie, Pennsylvania, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling. Got
the clubs in the back of the truck every day. Always
Tin
ready.
Cup Mosher is what
I know.
Called.
I'm really proud of Coach that he brought up CeeDee Lamb's salary and not Dak Prescott's salary.
It's
growth. Improvement, but it's a $34 million receiver, not $30 million receiver. Just
30, 31, 32, 34. Roll.
At some point, it becomes real money, Coach.
Yeah, just catch the damn ball.
That's fair. Fair enough.
The Miles Sanders fumble too was a killer. That was brutal.
Well, yeah,
he didn't score. God,
yeah, that's the issue.
You can't outrun a linebacker and you don't feel him gaining on you. Just dart to the right and get the ball in the end zone. For crying out loud, show me you have some football mentality of saying, man, this guy's gaining on me. Bang, I got to dart a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like Jaden Blue doesn't get caught there, but the question is, does Jaden Blue get through that hole initially to get to the run? So,
well, I want to say this about the run. I mean, what I liked about it was his patience.
Yes.
I mean, when you're pulling both guards and you're chasing the outside hip of the tight end, Jeff, get ready to take you some notes. Don't stand there scratching. And the back is chasing the outside hip of the tight end. You got to stay patient in that situation because I do think they have two different running backs. I think that Javonte is a downhill back who's going to see it and hit it now, where Miles Sanders, I did like his patience. He's chasing that outside hip, and then it got there, and then he went. Now, we just would like to see him get it in, I don't even say fifth gear, I say fourth gear out of four-wheel drive low to go score with that thing.
Yeah, and it's not even like he had perfect consistency in his vision either. There's definitely a couple other runs later in the game where it felt like he missed the reads. But yes, on that one specifically, man, that they strung that all the way out almost to the sideline before he hit it upfield in the hole and timed it perfectly. Just wish he could finish in the end zone and then obviously finish with the ball in his hands. That's a huge part of this as well.
Okay, well, could Jaden Blue get away from that? But the bigger question is, can he get out of the doghouse? We'll get into that when we come back. Also, have a pretty big name, former number one pick rumor floating out in the Dallas area. We want to hit on that. And a lot more. We'll try to update some of these comments. And as always, we appreciate it. We want to hear from you via the Cowboys comment crew. We'll do that when we come back. Great to be with you on this Wednesday night, getting ready for week 2. The Cowboys and the Giants. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. And we got to give it up for what they're doing at FanDuel, because FanDuel, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And the cool thing is, it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, we are back. Cowboy Squad Show. The coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, Marcus Mosher, and Landon McCool, co-hosts of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. All right, I think we all agree Javonte Williams looked really good. I mean, it was really nice to see him out there and playing, and thought he looked great. Can't wait to see what he's able to do on Sunday against the Giants. We talked about Miles Sanders and the fumble, but what is going on with Jaden Blue?
Landon, you want me to start with this one?
I mean, I kind of want to think Coach should start.
Go
on
ahead,
this
Coach.
one, honestly.
This is right up your alley.
Nope, you're not drawing me off sides with that.
I wanted to know.
I'll start then. I get that. Look, I mean, I think, the stuff that Coach talked about, if he doesn't want to say it, I'll say it for him. The stuff that Coach talked about, in the offseason, I think is kind of showing up here. I mean, look, this is a guy that there were concerns about understanding and following specific details. It was a lot to learn. And I think, when Coach had mentioned what he had heard, I think every single time that's been brought up in front of a coaching staff or a front office member, and they've talked about it, they've done nothing to deny that it was an issue. In fact, it basically all but confirmed that, early on in OTAs, I just don't know if he understood what it took to be a pro and kind of saying stuff like that. But, I think it's easy to read between the lines and see that he didn't pick up on a lot of the playbook early on. He missed some time and a lot of time in training camp with an injury, which I think had an effect on his ability to digest and play with the playbook. And I think that obviously, in turn, had a direct effect in his ability to be active on game days. So if you can't trust him to read the play right, to take an audible if Dak calls an audible and you're suddenly in protection, to understand the protections, then you probably can't make it out for too many plays. And at a certain point, if you're only going to be in for a certain amount of package plays specifically for you, you become less valuable than a wide receiver who you need to play special teams. So you become inactive, and they play the guy that they feel like they can trust, even if they don't know how talented Miles Sanders necessarily is.
I just think he's going to need to show in the classroom that he's ready to go and show in the practice field that he can be more consistent. Like Brian Schottenheimer, to his credit, has been pretty consistent about this. Like guys that deserve to play are going to play. Just because you are a first round pick like Mozzie Smith does not necessarily mean that you're going to be active and playing on game days. And just because you're this big recruit out of high school, Jaden Blue, like he was, and you're a 5th round pick and you're the most athletic running back on the roster, doesn't guarantee that you're going to play. And I think this has been a little bit of the problem with the Cowboys culture over the last however many years, you want to say 20 years. There's been this sense of entitlement that, hey, I deserve to play, or this guy deserves to play because he was a high pick. I think Shotty's trying to change that a little bit, and he's wanting these guys to really earn their spots before they get on the field. And I know what everybody's saying. Well, what has Miles Sanders done to show that he deserves that spot? It's probably just more he knows what he's supposed to do. Like
Trust.
He knows where the coaches trust him. Now they might not trust him as much now that he fumbled, but I think for the most part, he knows what is expected of him. Blue's got to earn that.
Yeah, and there's more to play in that position than just carrying the football. I mean, you've got to know how to protect. You got to go put your face in there, and you're usually going to have to get your face on somebody that's bigger than you are. Now, you don't want to cut him loose on a defensive lineman, but certainly every linebacker that comes and most safeties that come in the league today may be bigger than you. And so now all of a sudden, that's all about Shiva-getter. That's what it is. And so either you show that and you display that and how you handle your everyday business, or you don't. I don't know that he is or he isn't. When I gave an opinion, it was an opinion from what I had seen and some folks had seen. And you don't have to be magna cum laude at Harvard to figure out how he went about his business in high school at Klein Kane High School, when he decided after his junior year he wasn't going to go through spring football. And then he decided as a senior he was not going to play football. Okay, he's uber talented. I get that. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are really talented, but at the professional level, if you're going to get it done at the professional level and get it done with a consistent sense of urgency that you have to get it done with, then you have to go out, and that has to be what your job is. That is your job. And so, I don't go out there every day. I'm not going to go out there and sit around and thumb my nuts and jockey information with the rest of those guys. I'm not doing that. So I give you what I hear and what I know, and I try to bring it with a little different sense of urgency than anybody else brings it. So, I mean, I hope Jaden Blue, when you look at his tape and you cut his tape on at Texas, he's a home run hitter. And guess what? This offense needs home run hitters. So hopefully he can turn himself into, get in the batting cage, get your swings in, and make sure you get, you're ready to go when your number gets called, and hopefully you can be a home run hitter.
I do think he's going to get chances. It's just, I don't think it's necessarily going to happen in September. I think it's more likely to happen as the season goes on. I just think they really want him to earn it. And Shotty also said it's a special teams thing. Like, he's the third running back on the roster. The first two don't play special teams. Hunter Lipke does. And maybe if he carves out a role on special teams, we see him active with the other two, but that's not the case right now.
Yeah, it's also hard because he's small. I mean, like Coach was talking about, pass protecting being part of the issues, and or things you have to do when you're an NFL running back. And it's not even just that being assignment sound. It's the concern about having a 190-pound running back trying to stop a 235-pound moving train, right? That's got 4 yards of momentum. That's not always a physically, possible thing to do. So you have to deploy him carefully. And I think it's just limiting the opportunities you have to put him out there. I tend to think that once they do bring him out there, and I brought this up on social media yesterday, I think that they should try to focus on giving him some first down looks, because I think that you'll see a lesser variety of defensive looks. The Cowboys need more explosive plays, specifically on first down. Like, they've been really good on second and third downs when Dak has targets to throw to. But he can't even earn those opportunities if you can't roster him. And so you've got to get him to a point where you can at least feel comfortable enough about his ability to function as a running back that you can either roster him or get him good enough at a specific special team so that you can play him that way. But again, he's 190 pounds, so that's not always going to be the easiest thing to do.
It is. It is tough work when you are the second or third back. It's tough all the way around. It's tough. If you think it's not tough covering kicks or blocking and punt protection or any of the other situations that you would get in from a special team standpoint, it is tough. It is a tough ass business for tough ass people. And you got to determine if you're one of those guys or not, because it really is. It's about want to. I mean, I try to point to people all the time. If you're a Cowboys fan, you don't watch a Netflix series or you haven't watched it, you need to watch it.
Yep.
Because the one thing you need to take away from it is you need to just listen to Michael Urban and how he talks about just how he went about his business every single day. I think I saw him somewhere on YouTube the other day, and I know this for a fact, where he was talking about no one ever clocked him under running about 4.5. And I remember going out on the track and literally clocking him, and he 4.52, 4.55, and he would be so frustrated. But the difference is he had a fear of failure that burned in him and it burns in him today. I mean, look at him on the sidelines of a Miami Hurricane game, and he has a want, he has a drive, and he has a fear of failure that's unlike anything. And it takes, if you're going to be great and you're going to be great in the NFL, you have to have something that really drives you and something that really burns inside of you. And it's a want to, and it's a desire to do it. And if you don't have that, you eventually weeding yourself out. And I'm not pointing to anybody in particular, so don't take this off the rails. I'm just saying playing in the NFL, it is a tough business, period.
Maybe skip the episode where Michael Irvin stabs a teammate. But other than that, I think you're right, Coach.
Yeah, you're sitting in the barber chair, and the guy that's the star of the team walks in, get your ass up out of the barber chair. That's the moral of that story.
It's a bad message, but okay.
But back to Jaden. I mean, look, I always say if you're going to get the goal, you got to go through the fire, and I'm all for pushing him and trying to get him to be the best that he can be. And I hope it pays off. I mean, it's going to have to, or as Coach said, he won't be around, period. I didn't mean to speak for you guys, but I said that we all kind of liked Javonte Williams. What did you guys think?
I thought he looked healthier than he's looked over the last couple of years. And I think if you look at the yards per carry, which is a bad way to judge a running back, you'll see 3.7 yards per carry. Not great. But he had the number one success rate in the NFL last week because he converted almost every short yardage attempt. I think that's all they're going to ask for him, is to be a physical between the tackle runner. He's not going to be the guy that's brought in to break big plays. He's going to be the guy that keeps the chains moving. And you can live with that kind of running back. I was very pleased by what the Cowboys got from Javonte in week 1.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, just to kind of explain it out a little bit, success rate just adds the context of the down and distance and what's, considered to be a positive run based on that down and distance. And, considering the situations that he was put in when he was running, he had the number one success rate in the NFL. So I think it wasn't spectacular. He didn't create a ton of explosive plays. That's what we need to see more of. And I think obviously that's where Sanders kind of stepped into that role a little bit. But as far as getting what you needed to convert, getting what you needed to score touchdowns, getting what was blocked for him, he provided a nice high floor for the Cowboys running game. I think the ceiling is what we're still kind of looking for at this point, as far as a guy that could be a dynamic alternative. I think Sanders showed you a little bit of that, but obviously there are other concerns there.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to it, keep saying it. You got to be able to protect. I mean, you have to be able – in the National Football League as a running back, it's great. He can run the ball. It's great yards per carry. And yeah, he's got vision. And yeah, he can stick his foot in the ground. And yeah, he can take it to the – he can take it to the house and all those things. But you got to be able to protect. You have to be able to understand the protection. And a lot of times you have to – you might be dual reading guys. It may be inside out. And you don't have – if you're thinking and you're not real sure where to go, that's what really causes the problem. And, I mean, I saw him multiple times. Now, it wasn't like he went in there and just road graded somebody. But, I mean, he went in there a couple of times and, threw it on the line to know you gotta bring it. And it is tough work as a running back to be able to protect and be able to know that you're going to be taking on a guy that's probably got a 6-yard head start on you, and he's got a head of steam coming your way.
All right. Good stuff. All right, and one little note, too, I forgot to mention, speaking of little former Cowboy running back, Deuce Vaughn signed with the Broncos practice squad today, just in case you're wondering.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Small back agenda continues.
And there was another, who was it? I'm drawing a blank. There was a running back that also had a fumble that got cut.
Oh, it was Jets. It was a kick returner, Xavier Gibson. He got cut.
Yes.
He's a kick returner.
That's right.
I'm still very upset about that game, Coach. He doesn't fumble. The Jets beat the Steelers, but it's fine.
Yeah, but I mean, how great is that? I mean, to me, if you're Aaron Glenn and you're going in and you're trying to change the culture of a building, and by the way,
to do it, right?
Winning is contagious, and so is losing. And you go in there and we could have won this football game if we hadn't done this, and he gets cut. I mean that sends a message throughout the building.
It's like the asthma thing. Go practice on the fumble field. This is the regular field, right?
Exactly.
All right. When we come back, there was a pretty big rumor this morning when I woke up, and we have an update on that rumor, that big name rumor. We will do that and get into that and ask everybody what they think of that and what it means. We'll do that when we return. Great to be with you on this Wednesday night. We got to talk about the Giants and the Cowboys, with the Cowboys home opener coming up on Sunday. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. And I've got to talk about what they're doing at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Good writing there. I like that. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. So join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SH Colleges for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service, SH Colleges for 5% off your first order. Welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. The former Cowboys coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, and the co-hosts of the Daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool. going to talk about, want to ask you about an episode you guys, I think, did today or yesterday. We'll do that coming up. But the big rumor this morning was that a former number 1 pick, Jadeveon Clowney, who last played with Carolina, was in Dallas today, meeting with the Cowboys. He has left Dallas with out of contract for now. And head coach Brian Schottenheimer said it was just a way to evaluate and kind of see where they're at for both sides. So that's what you would expect. But the fact that they brought him in and they talked to him, what does that say to you guys?
Well, they've got the second most cap space in the NFL, so I don't think they should rule out any available free agents that can help their team. And honestly, I think Clowney probably is the best free agent out there. He's only 32 years old. He was productive last year for Carolina. He was really good with Baltimore. He stops the run. He's a pretty decent pass rusher. He's another big body that you can throw in there. He can line up in a lot of different places. But as always is the deal with Jadeveon Clowney. He's played on, I think, 6 teams over the last 7 years. He's a mercenary at this point. Like he's not loyal to any one team. He's going to wherever he can get the most money. And my guess is that the Cowboys are interested, but probably not at the contract that Jadeveon Clowney wants right now. Maybe they'll check back in a week or two, maybe kind of seeing how their young guys do and maybe seeing what Clowney's price is. But I got to believe that's the case right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Clowney is just another one of these guys. I mean, I think mercenary is the appropriate way to refer to it, right? Where he's out to get a paycheck year to year, which is fine, and I think he's got value, and I think he would help the Cowboys. I mean, look, it's not in any sort of way any kind of Micah Parsons replacement, even in a play style like situation. It's more closer to a DeMarcus Lawrence type of filling, and in with the way that you saw Marshawn Nealon play last week, maybe you feel like you don't necessarily need to jump right into this. You could let it play out a little bit and see if his number comes down a little bit before you sign him. But I do think that he could be a guy that if the Cowboys ended up signing could be a valuable a part of a rotation. Just another, a second kind of bigger body guy that is sort of more unique body style than what the Cowboys have basically in stock outside of Nealon. So I think he could be useful just kind of playing several different spots and just another veteran presence to kind of help with a young group of defensive ends.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to say that it'll be interesting to see if they, what kind of medical look they took at him. I mean, did they send him for some X-rays or MRIs, something like that? I don't know that, but I'd like to know that information first to see if he's really healthy, because I'm like Marcus. I mean, he can help this football team right now if he's healthy. He's got, you can talk about him at 32 years old. Maybe he's a little stiff in the hips, whatever. I mean, you look at him and you watch some of his film from last year. He's still really flexible in his ankles, and to me that means a lot. I mean, when you have that flexibility, that means you can turn the corner, you can get up the field, you can do the things that you need to do. So I do think that I'm more inclined to say that they're probably taking a hard look at it to see where they think he is physically.
Which is probably why he was available at this point, right? Like, if you sign him before the season, he's a veteran. That contract's fully guaranteed, right? You sign him after the first week. You take a look at the medical situation, and it just gives you more tolerance for the medical situation. Like, maybe he's got some arthritis in his knees or something, but it's like, we'll handle that as long as his full year contract isn't guaranteed. If it becomes a problem, we can cut him and we can recoup that. So I think that there's just a certain class of these veteran guys who, coach is right. Like, I mean, playing 8 to 10 years as a defensive end is going to put some wear and tear on your body. Maybe the Cowboys just don't want to guarantee that contract because of that medical, but it's enough that, hey, now that we're not talking about a guaranteed contract, we don't mind paying the money for it. We just want to make sure that we're insulating ourselves in case of injury.
And I think it becomes a question of load management on your body.
Sure.
I mean, can he practice? Is he a guy that's going to practice every day? Probably not. So then, what does the medical team think about how you load manage all that? And then how are you going to then fit that under what you want to pay a guy that you're going to have to get into that situation with? Again, I have zero insight into it. I'm just guessing that that's what they're looking at, is a guy at 32 years old. And yeah, that doesn't sound very old, but from an NFL standpoint, it's playing that position and getting him into, and it's, again, he is a big dude, just a big guy, and load managing his body.
Great point.
He also has had quite an extensive injury history in the NFL. Now, he's played through a lot, but you're talking about somebody who had microfracture early in his career, who's dealt with a history of soft tissue injuries. There's also a part of Jadeveon Clowney that, like, I don't know how much he loves to practice. So that's probably why he's not signing, in July and August, because, hey, if you can skip out on those 2 months of training camp, it's kind of nice just to walk right into the season. So I do think he gets signed at some point. We'll see if the Cowboys are interested here in a couple of weeks. But, Coach, I want to let you know, Jadeveon Clowney, he likes this area up here. He likes the cold, big-time skier.
He likes cold weather?
Loves the cold weather. Comes up here to ski, snowboard.
You signed to the Cowboys, signed the wrong team.
So I'll tell you that even professional athletes come up here to enjoy the weather. So there you go, Coach.
Yeah. Well, you ain't got to worry about those stretch coming up there.
I know.
It's a pretty toothless defense of Erie.
I'd rather a wild rhinoceros's ass and go.
Yeah, we'll get you up here one day. Don't you worry.
You gonna get me up there one day, but it ain't gonna be in that 7 months that white stuff comes out of the sky.
Someday we're gonna, all three of us, get a picture of us, like tobogganing down an Erie, Pennsylvania hill. Because
I want to get out on that lake. I mean, if we're going to do it,
anytime you want.
If we're going to do it, let's go ahead and take the damn polar bear swim and the whole nine.
Oh, come on!
Up there, get his ass up there too.
I'm not volunteered for that. That's all y'all.
So let me ask you guys this, because I feel like we maybe glossed over it a little bit, but obviously going into the opener last week, it was a Cowboys defense now minus Micah Parsons. And so we kind of moved on from that. But with that said, we didn't get to see the Cowboys defense really at all until that opening game. Talk about the offense. What were were you pleasantly surprised with the Cowboys defense? Were you disappointed? What was your overall takeaway?
It depended on the half, right? The first half, I wonder if they were ever going to get a stop this season. The second half, it felt like they did a really good job of containing Saquon Barkley. They got beat at the end by a scramble by Jalen Hurts, but it seemed like they settled down. Jeff, I'm going to be really curious to see, like, what does week 2 look like? Is it one of those first halves again where they can't stop a nosebleed, or did they settle in kind of like what we saw in the second half?
It felt like in that game, especially early, the defense kept on getting beat in 2 very specific ways, right? They kept on letting Jalen Hurts break contain and then scramble for big plays, and they couldn't cover the tight end for certain parts of the early part of the game. And that was enough of Philly to create a pretty explosive, chunky offense that was able to move the ball pretty well. But I think in all the ways that we were concerned about this defense, they did pretty good. Like, they actually were able to get after the quarterback a little bit, create a little bit of pressure. Certainly not Micah Parsons level, and that shouldn't be the standard because you don't have him anymore. But I also think that in normal designed run plays, they did a pretty decent job of limiting the bleeding there, and they were not being blown off the ball like we saw in previous seasons. So I think the numbers don't look great, certainly, but the way that they were losing, the way that they were getting beat up in the run game was a way that I felt like at least gave you hope that they have found some solutions and at least kind of solving the interior of their defensive line and not, being out bullied inside. If they can just play with a little bit better discipline on the edges and maybe not play the best offensive tackle combo in all of football, I think that defense looks a lot better. I mean, especially when you look at how little the Eagles were able to do in the passing game, right? With their passing attack, the Cowboys defense was basically able to shut down the Eagles passing attack, especially in the second half.
And they were going to give they were going to give them those little 5-yard option routes to Goddard. I mean, they were not all that concerned with trying to shut that down. What they were more concerned with was not giving up the home run. And I thought they did a good job, not giving up the deep ball. And I think that's something you're going to have to see more of. You're going to have to see them kind of keep everything in front of you. Hey, let's if they dump the football down, let's rally, let's tackle. I thought they tackled okay. I mean, I thought defensively they rallied to the football. They took good angles. So, I mean, all of those things are, plus. Yeah, again, is it going to be some defense that's probably going to get you a bunch of turnovers? Probably not. And so we can talk about the defense if we want to. The money is spent on the offense, and those guys are going to have to go win the football game. It is that simple, and we're going to be talking about it for the next 15 weeks. They're going to have to score 28 to 30 points to beat most of these teams. That's just how it is.
I almost made a joke about
to get better.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I almost made a joke about the Cowboys, quarterback and how much he's making. But Coach is right in this case. Like that, all their money is on offense. That's the group that has to be consistent every single game. We can live with the defense being a little bit more high variance. The offense can't.
Yeah, and like I was saying, like I think the hope is all the youth is also on the defense too, right? All the young guys that you're hoping to develop, that's mostly on the defense as well. So the hope is that as they continue to get experience, the variance that you should expect for the early part of the season, starts to kind of even out a little bit. Hopefully, they raise the floor a little bit from where they were in the early season when they were an inexperienced team. Maybe you get one or two of these pass rushers to start playing at a little bit higher level than what you have early on in the season. That's the hope. But yeah, as it stands right now, this is going to have to be a team that scores a lot of points to win these ball games.
All right. Good stuff. When we come back, we're going to have our final segment and want to talk about the Giants and the home opener and what the Cowboys need to do. And I think your latest episode, is a perfect segue to kind of jump into that. So we'll do that when we come back. A lot of good comments. Brian says Clarence Hill reporting that the Cowboys not going to sign Clowney. Well, I don't know if that was definitive or I thought he just left without a contract.
It sounded like that's where they were trending, but that doesn't. I think that just meant for today. I don't think that means that they aren't necessarily going to sign him.
That's right. That's what I thought. Okay. All right. More of your comments and our final segment coming up. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. And you know what? You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. I had to move everything around. So there we go. Cowboy Squad Show. The two co-hosts of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool. And that is former Cowboys coach Glenn Stretch Smith. All right. So on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, forgive me, I don't know if it was today or yesterday because I've been busy today, but I'm usually on top of that. You guys did a really good episode. 3 positions that must improve moving forward.
Yeah, so that was our Wednesday episode. So today, and the 3 positions that we looked at were linebacker. We just didn't think the Cowboys got enough out of Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn. And there's some reasons why we think those guys might have struggled. For Murray, he has not practiced a ton. He missed all of the preseason. He also might not be good. Like that's a reason why the Cowboys might need more of it. The tight end position, we thought the tight ends did a really good job blocking in the run game, but all 3 of them failed to bring in some big catches that would have helped the offense stay on the field. And then we want to see more from the tackles. I didn't think the tackles played terrible, but they're going to need to continue to get better. You've got some really good edge rushers that you're going to be playing, including 3 this week with Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, and Kayvon Thibodeau, plus Chauncey Golston, old friend of ours. They're going to have to continue to improve based on just what we saw from last week.
Yeah, and just kind of to piggyback on that, one of the reasons we brought up tackles and tight ends specifically together, those 2 groups are going to need to work together on those terrible threesome that the Giants have, right? So I think it's going to be really important that the Cowboys' run game continue to be steady, that they attack those guys at the edge. They're a little bit undersized, obviously pass rushers. That doesn't mean that they're bad at playing the run, but you hope that at least being physical with them up front might help loosen things up in the pass game a little bit more. You're going to need your tight ends and your tackles to not only play well individually as groups, but work together in coordination to kind of attack the toughest part of that Giants defense.
Coach, any thoughts?
Here, how can I help you today? Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear the episode, but certainly, I mean, the tight ends, they're going to need Ferguson, they're going to need Schoonmaker, Spanford. You have 2 really good wideouts, and when you have that, what you're going to have is so many teams that are going to play a 2 deep or a 4 deep coverage. Having the ability to get through the middle of the field is imperative. And you got to have somebody that can stretch the field vertically for you. And that is something that I think Ferguson, Spanford, they can do. And so I do agree with that. Linebackers wise, there's a reason that Tennessee let Murray go. I'd like to see Leafau in the game a little more, but there's a reason why they didn't feel necessarily comfortable giving him more snaps. This is a defense that did not play their starters. So, again, understanding the speed of the game, I look for that group to be much better. I thought they covered okay from a playing the underneath coverage. And but ultimately you gotta just continue to work on being gap sound with what you're doing to stop the run, because everybody's going to see that film in the first half, and they're going to think that they can run the football at you, and you're going to have to shore up that second level, those guys getting second level opportunities. And I do think Kenny Clark and Osa they're going to take up your both guards and your center. So you got to have some linebackers that can come downhill and make plays.
Now, and obviously DeMarvion Overshown will be back at some point, but that could still be another month away as far as we know. And we don't know the state of exactly how he's going to look immediately when he comes back. So you need to have playmakers at the linebacker position. And like Coach said, especially since you have the tackles to hold up front, you really need to have linebackers who can take advantage of it. And I feel like what we saw this week was a lot of competent play from the younger players in that linebacker room, right? I thought Damone Clark played well. Leafau only played, I think, 6 snaps, but he looked good out there, certainly good enough that, when you look at how Murray played, and I think Murray played something like, what did we say, Marcus?
61 snaps. I think it was 61. 61 to the 62 snaps.
Yeah, 60. I think it was 62 because I remember being 2. 62 snaps to Leafau, 6 snaps. Like, come on, we gotta at least balance that out a little bit more. If not only for the reason that it's a very long season and that you're gonna need all these guys, because linebacker is much like the running back of the defensive position in the sense that they're constantly getting into car crashes. Those guys get beat up a lot. You're going to need these guys. So I think it's time for us to kind of see a little bit of the youth movement. Look, I mean, I think when you change defensive coordinators, this happens sometimes. Same thing happened with Damone Clark and Zimmer. Clark was in the doghouse with Zimmer for one reason or another, just didn't fit the style, whatever the reason is. They didn't play him as much, but when they did play him, he played well. And I think he played well in this game as well. And I think the Cowboys are feeling better about his situation in Eberflus. I think Leofau may be dealing with a similar thing where all the coaches that drafted him originally aren't here anymore. He's having to re-earn some of that trust with this new coaching staff. Hopefully he's doing that sooner than later.
All right. So I've been doing this a long time, and this is not hyperbole by any means. But with that said, considering that they literally let the Eagles game through their fingertips, like you said, Marcus, with the fumble and the drops, I mean, you got to win on Sunday. I mean, I know that that's a stupid thing to say, but you're home against the Giants week 2. You're favored. You don't want to be 0-2, and you don't want to start your season off this way. And
actually, there's an episode coming out tomorrow that I did with Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants, and we had this exact conversation. So make sure you go look at it, but go watch it. Yeah, it's kind of a must-win game. Like, not only can you not afford to go 0-2 to start the season, you really don't want to go 0-2 in your division to start the year because it becomes really hard to bounce back from that. But this is a home game against a team that you're favored against. We've been talking all offseason, like how difficult this schedule gets in the second half of the year, and that they need to rack up these early season wins to give themselves a chance. If they're 0-2 and they have a bunch of mental mistakes and fumbles and penalties, and we're talking about an 0-2 team coming out of week 2, I just have a hard time seeing them go 10-5 over the next 15 games and getting back into the playoffs. I don't want to say your season's over before it begins, but we're getting real close.
You lose a lot of control is what it is, right? Like when you lose 2 division games, all it is that you lose more and more control of your own destiny. You need things to kind of break the right way. Look, anything can happen. I mean, I remember, what was it, the 2023 season that we needed the Eagles to lose 6 straight games at the end of the season or whatever it was. And lo and behold, they did it. So like, sometimes these things will fall that way, but as you like lose these opportunities to gain control, to retain control of your own destiny in the NFL, that's really where you start to like lose opportunity. And the problem is not that you're 0-2, like Marcus said, it's that these are division games that you've played these first 2 games. So you need to win these ones, especially the ones that you're expecting to win, like home games against the Giants, right? Like this is not going to be as easy a game as I think a lot of Cowboys fans think it will be, because the Giants are good in some very specific areas in which they can exploit and make this game difficult for you. However, the Cowboys are favored for a reason. They are the more talented team, and they have to win the games that they are supposed to win if they aren't going to win the games that they were given the opportunities to win, and they couldn't take advantage of it, So
Jeff, since 2020, when they expanded to a 17-game schedule, only 2 teams have made the playoffs after starting 0-2. And actually one of them is Baltimore, who Dallas played in week 3 last year. Remember that game? Ravens came in 0-2 and kind of beat up on the Cowboys early. So it's incredibly hard to make the postseason, even harder if you have the schedule that the Cowboys coming up and they have in the second half of the year. This is as close to a must-win week 2 game as you'll ever get.
It's fair.
I love it.
As you'll ever get in week 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's always 1 or 2 games that you look at and you think, man, we won that game when we should have lost. There's 1 or 2 you say, man, we lost, we should have won. I hope this is not the case. Win the one you should win at this point in the season to get yourself to 1-1. Complete different mentality in the building, complete different mentality even for, anybody that covers the team, anybody that deals with it. It's going to be a complete different mentality. So I do think this is a big game, and that they made it a big game by missing an opportunity last week. And so you need to go get this done.
Real quick before we go, would you rather they announced that Russell Wilson is going to be the quarterback? It sounds like would you rather have faced Russell Wilson or the young rookie?
What's the phrase? You'd rather deal
Jackson
with the devil?
Dart?
You'd rather deal with the devil you know versus the one that you don't. I know what Russell Wilson is. I know how he's going to try to beat the Cowboys. I'll live with that.
I think that's how I feel too, honestly.
At least to start, right?
Yes.
All right,
need a rookie catalyst in this situation.
Yeah, that's right. So what do you got coming up before we go on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast?
Yeah, so we got that crossover episode with Patricia Traina coming out on Thursday, and then Friday, Landon and I will preview the Week 2 matchup between the Cowboys and Giants. Might be giving a bold prediction at the end of that show, so be on the lookout for that.
Love bold predictions. They're very underrated. Very underused. All right, guys. Well, hey, it was a pleasure. This hour flew by. Really enjoyed the conversation. Love it when we're all together. Thank you for coming on today. Don't forget, check out Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool, the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. And if you're in the greater DFW area, you can hear the fine vocal tones of the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, in your radio show. Coach, we'll talk to you on Sunday.
Have a great evening, fellas.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for getting in and watching. This has been the Cowboys Squad Show.